Assalamu alaikum, it's your brother Ibrahim here from Syria. This is the first video of a series of videos in a new program called Let's Talk Syria, where I'll be having guests on board with me, and we'll be discussing current affairs around the freed areas, around the revolution, Syria, and the region. Today is a very important topic that we'll be discussing with our guest. The topic is Mu'tamar al-Laji'in, which is a conference for the refugees, the Syrian refugees, where Russia and the Assad Regime in Iran, they're trying to open up some doors and open up ways for people to come back to the Assad areas. Now, it's had a big backlash. Many organizations, many unions have refuted it and rejected it, as well as many countries around the world. They've been invited to this conference and have rejected the conference and are not coming. Our guest today, Muhammad Isa, he'll be sharing his opinion as a Syrian here in the freed areas. He's studied, he's got an English degree in English literature. He'll be giving his opinion regarding this conference and regarding the refugees, and as well we'll be discussing this topic with him. We'll introduce our brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to have you on with us, Akhi Muhammad Isa. You heard the topic and the points that we're going to discuss today. What's your opinion? I thought I'd maybe get your opinion about the conference itself. Do you agree with that sort of conference? What's your opinion regarding the people that have refuted it or rejected it, as well as the countries? You give us a quick rundown.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa sallam. Akhi, before we asking about the conference itself, we can ask ourselves a question. Why these people left their houses and their country out of Syria?
No.
What is the cause? Of course, because it was the dictatorial Bashar al-Assad and his allies, Russian and Iranian forces,
No.
who bombed and destroyed and killed everything in the Syrian areas.
No.
So this caused them to leave their countries and go out either to the north of Syria, which is now free, liberated areas, or Turkish, Lebanon, Jordan, or even to the Europe.
No.
And how they would call for coming back refugees to their countries, and the Assad is still in the power. It's abnormal.
No.
There is a contradiction between the conference and what is the reality of the situation.
No.
Either the people now in the Assad areas are suffering. They are not comfortable. They are suffering to get their bread. They are suffering to get their fuel. They are suffering to even to survive, because the war effects on the Syrian economy, which caused the decrease of the value of the lira, according to the others,
To the
dollars.
Yeah.
For example, before the revolution, $1 is about 50 Syrian pound.
No.
Now $1 is about 2,500 Syrian pound.
No.
It is a big gap between.
Yeah, the wages of the people.
This is as it is. The wages or the salaries.
Like the government, from what I gathered from statistics, that 60% of the Syrian people are employed in the public sector, which means they're employed by the government, and only 40% of the people that are employed are in the private sector. So most of the people living, or a large majority, they're working for the government, so their wage is still, like you're saying, is still very low.
Yes, they are calling people to come back to Syria. For what? As I said before, to struggle, to fight, for just to be alive. It's nothing abnormal. They declare or they claim that the whole area is safe, which is not, because 2 days ago, or maybe 4 days ago, the forces of Russia bombed here in Italy. Yes, they were bombing.
As well as the issues that happen in Daraa.
Yes. For the Daraa, it is another story. They claim that we have control on Daraa by the reconciliations, the conferences, which is not true, because 2 days ago, maybe many people attacked the Hajj for the
checkpoint, Syrian regime checkpoint.
They killed many soldiers, many officers.
No.
What is the safety?
Yeah, as well as like you mentioned the reconciliation.
Yes.
As well as like when the reconciliation happened, this was a couple of years ago. It was a big event for the revolution. It caused, you could say, a lot of controversy around people going back to the Assad regime, people with the Russian mediation. We've seen from them after reconciliation, many things were promised. Most of the promises were broken, as well as like many people being killed on a daily basis. You hear about this guy's been assassinated, this guy's been kidnapped, this guy's been tortured, this guy's been in prison. Like, what's the story there?
Okay, people who follow the reconciliations treatment, they were deceived by the Nizam and the Russian promises.
No.
And we have known from the first that the Assad and Russians have no word. All the time they broke their words.
No.
You see?
Yes.
But people have no choices. Okay, they lost their properties. They are living in a poor or a bad situation.
No.
And many situation play a great role and to fulfill this مصالحات.
The reconciliation.
But this مصالحات was not true. Okay?
Yeah.
The Assad took these people, pushed them to fight other opposite in the other front lines.
Fighting against us and against the revolution in Italy.
And some of them put them in the prisons.
No.
And some of them are without job.
Yeah.
So we can say this مصالحات is something as a trick.
Yeah. And the people, like, even now, you'd say that because of the very bad situation, the security situation, that it's not actually under their control. It's just they done that. It seemed as though they'd done that just to skip these areas and go on to fight other areas and kill and destroy more people and more homes and more areas. And
maybe people take these reconciliations as a period to rearrange their matters.
Yes, so they can come out and do a.
Inshallah, will start again.
Yeah.
And the revolution will still, and they will have to have something in it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Idlib or the freed areas. What's the people like here, living here? I know that you could say that there are dire situations for some of the people living here. There are like approximately 1 million people living in refugee camps. What's the spirit of the people here? What's the situation? What's your opinion about that?
Okay, for the people living here in Idlib, they have their choices. You see, they have two choices: either to be in Assad area, suffering as slaves, or to be in free areas and suffering, but they have their dignity.
No.
They have free will to live as they want.
No.
They choose to live under trees and tents and face all of kind of difficulties you imagine.
No.
But they have choices to live out of the Assad control. Yes, in freedom. And they are happy, akhi. Maybe they suffer, but they are happy.
No.
You are happy, you can go out, you can travel, or you can move from place to another place, even at 9 o'clock evening, 10 o'clock evening. Nobody stop you. Where you are going, where you come from. No, akhi. No. You are free to live, to do whatever you like. Yeah. Even you are free to live as you are comfortable.
Going back to the Assad regime just quickly. Now, you mentioned the dire situation. Are all the people living in that situation, or are the loyalists or the ones close to Assad and his family are living in a different way than the people?
No, akhi, no. People in Assad areas are divided into categories. One of them are living a luxurious life with the circle around the Assad and his regime.
No.
Are living more than luxurious life. Their cars, their houses, their way of style of life. In the other bank, we see a lot of people are living under the poverty line. They spend many hours just to get bread.
No.
They spend 2 days just to
fill up petrol.
To fill petrol. And finally, the head office of the Hijra wal Jawazat for the Assad regime.
The immigration department.
Yes, make a show on the TV that everyone who has to return to the Syria have to pay the government $100.
Just so they can go back to the
yes,
Assad area.
Yeah, like I want to go to my home or my country. I have to pay $100 for the government.
I want to ask you a question then. Where did the Assad regime get this money from?
I think
like the money they're spending, their cars, their houses. Where's this money from?
He stole this all properties of these people. He stole the tharwat of this country.
What the tharwat is the treasures, you mean?
Yes, 50 years We don't know anything about petrol. Where they sell petrol, nobody knows anything about it.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. I think I'd like to mention that there's approximately 12 million Syrians that have been displaced in this war. Approximately 6.5 internally displaced, and approximately 5.5 externally displaced in Turkey and in Jordan and in Lebanon. These people, what do you think would be their message to the Assad regime when he does these sort of conferences? And in addition to that, what would their reaction be when they see that this conference was, you could say, a political stunt, or this sort of, what do you think the people's opinions are?
Nobody will return to Syria while the Assad is in the power.
No.
The only choice we have that to throw the Assad out of Syria and his allies, Russian and the Iranian forces, then all people out of Syria will come to Syria and will be happy and will be satisfied. But as the Assad is in the Syria and the power, nobody will come or will return back. But I think that the Russian and the Iranian want to recycle Assad and represent him for the world that he is a good one. He is the one who can control Syria and the one who is will fulfill our benefit.
Yeah.
But it is something not true, Akhi. Look, half of Syrians are out of Syria.
Yeah.
What is the benefit of coming or be in Syria?
Yes. Look, SubhanAllah, I think it's as well important we mention that there's been close to hundreds of thousands, and some say up to 1 million martyrs killed at the hands of the Russian occupation, the Iranian occupation, and the Assad regime and their allies, as well as thousands upon thousands injured. We've seen all the photos that come out from the Caesar Act, how many people have been incarcerated and have been killed in the dungeons and the prisons of the Assad regime. It's really left a huge mark and scar in the hearts and minds of the Syrian people.
Yes,
we see that in daily life here in Idlib, as you have been mentioning as well, being a Syrian and a citizen of a resident of Idlib in the freed areas amongst the revolution, the people of the revolution. I think the scar is going to be hard to cure in the hearts and minds of the people. There's not a family that hasn't lost a loved one, nor a family that hasn't been exiled, or relatives that have been exiled, or have been injured, or have been in the prisons of the Assad regime. I think these scars are going to be hard to go. What's your opinion?
Akhi, it is something difficult to be a judge and the killer at the same time. Something difficult. This is what you have now. The Russian called for the Refugee Conference. At the same time, 2 days ago or 3 days ago, they bombed around the Idlib, and many innocents have been killed.
No.
How you call this?
No.
What you can?
No. They tend to target the marketplaces, the civilian areas. They really target them.
Yes, and they call other people to come to Syria. They are big players.
No.
And they are, from my point of view, they are occupying these lands.
No.
Even the Assad is a slave for them.
No.
It's nothing for them.
No.
But they want to occupy these lands and rule these lands by the name of the Assad regime.
Jazakallah khair, Akhi Muhammad Isa. I've really benefited from the discussion with you. I hope the brothers and sisters that are watching have benefited as well. This is a video that we will be doing a series of videos in the future of topics similar to this one. We will elaborate on these sort of topics more, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. It's your brother Ibrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.